Hello, everyone that has joined in with us. Thank you for joining in. Hi, Elder Lucy. Thank you for joining us. Lady Child says hello, Elder Lucy. I just want to say thank you for everyone that has joined in with us for today. Um, Thank you for everyone that has been on this journey with me for the last 2 years. And thank you to um, Pastor Schuyler for opening our home to me again to present Life in the Daylight to the masses. Um, this is truly a God idea. It was truly a God idea. This was not my idea. I had never had a thought that I would write a book. Um, but he put it in me through reading watching or listening to the radio. But first, let us start off with a word of prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for the sun. Thank you for the heat, even though it's hot. Thank you that we are able to experience it and feel it. And I pray that everybody that has joined, that is going to join in and has joined in with us today, will get something from it. We'll see how they can live life in the daylight despite the obstacles that they have lived in and lived with and continue to live with. Um, you get all the glory and praise for using me as the vessel to bring forth this God idea. And I just thank you and I praise you. In your son Jesus' name, thank you and amen.
Amen.
Where are the tissues? People saw it. I did a documentary 8 years ago when I was to celebrate 20 years from being sick. Then re I updated it in 2017, and I spoke here in this very same room in 2016, and thought I'd take myself. I was so nervous. I thought I pressed record, and I didn't. So, in my creativity mind and with God putting a download in me, he said, why don't you put what you did in 15 and in 16 and do something? And so in 17, a month in September, I did so. I updated the documentary in 17 to go into Hydrocephalus Awareness Month. Hydrocephalus Awareness Month is the month of September. For the last 28 years now, August, September, October, and November have been a celebration for me. And August because I was sick in 1995 in August. In September because it's Hydrocephalus Awareness Month. In October is Spina Bifida Awareness Month. And then November is my birthday. So it's a 4-month celebration for me. But I was listening to the radio in 2021, and AJ Joyner was on, and he said, anybody can write a book. You have the things that you write down, you have a journal, you have pictures, you have video. And I said, yeah, I have all of that. And so that's when I said, okay, I can do that. But going back to the documentary, updating it in 2017, Reverend Hardin saw the documentary and said, this can be a book. And I was like, I don't see that. But it was 4 years later that I did see that and feel it and see that it could be true. And here we are 2 years later, and we have Life in the Daylight. And so I'm going to read a portion of the book starting back in 1995. The summer of 1995 proved, for those who have your book on you, it was page 18. I'm starting on page 18. The second to last paragraph. The summer of 1995 proved to be the hardest time in my life. At the ripe age of 8, I got really sick. I was throwing up, endured the most grueling headaches, was sleeping all the time. A photojournalist from the local newspaper caught me with my head on a table of a park table, sleeping, and published the picture. I had multiple seizures. What 8-year-old wants to spend their summer vacation like that? I sure didn't. But by the end of the summer, I had been hospitalized and was bald-headed. I had outgrown my VP shunt because I was getting taller, so the shunt was stretched and wasn't able to work properly. To correct the complications, I had a new adult one surgically installed at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. I have been fine ever since, except for getting my first headache in 25 years and being dizzy due to that big old beast, COVID-19. But fine nonetheless afterward. After that summer and going back to school, I had less hair than the previous year. I thought nothing of it until one day when I was sitting in a school assembly in front of some fifth grade boys. I was minding my own business, paying attention to the assembly, until I heard, "It looks like she has stars and the moon in the back of her head," and then laughing. I was reminded of my difference again and instantly became embarrassed about my scars in my head. For the next 22 years, when getting my hair done, I had to make sure that my scars weren't visible. Now that may be to cope, my mother had come up with a way to hide them. There's that hiding again because of spina bifida. As I stated, I spent many years down and out because of what I was born with, until the age of 12. Still, for the next 20 years, I was often embarrassed and ashamed of the scars in my head. But that changed on September 28th, 2017. And if you don't have the book, you have to buy the book to figure out why and what changed on September 28th, 2017. I talked about my love of headscarves. I have recently started a new series called Wrap It Up Wednesday with the rest. And so every Wednesday, I do a style of wrapping your head up with a scarf. So a lot of good things have come from having this trial. But
You do that on Facebook?
I do it on my YouTube page.
Okay.
YouTube page is Life in the Daylight Studios every Wednesday. Don't have a set time, but I do put it on. When I do post a video, I do share it on Facebook. That is now posted. Today's is up now, and this month I will be wearing a blue. I will be using a blue scarf because the color for spina bifida, for hydrocephalus awareness is blue.
So do you show us how to wrap it? Is that it?
Yes, I show you how to wrap it. If you have your hair different ways, if you don't want to do your hair, you can go out the house and still look fly, still look decent, and not have to do your hair. Nobody would know.
So now, do you sell the different scarves or the material?
Soon come, soon come. That is another idea that I have coming. That's in the works. Just got to figure out how to do it and everything.
Just go to the fabric store, get some rags.
Well, not the kind of rags and kind of fabric I want to sell. I have to see where I can get this fabric that I want to sell, how to go about doing that in manufacturers and everything. Anybody else have any questions?
You ever think of making things local, like sewing, you know,
Mhm.
there's some people locally that may be able to sew or know how to sew good, you know, fabric is.
Yeah, it's just the getting of the fabric.
Mhm.
That's the only thing, because you know I love my African attire, I love my
Right,
African
right.
prints. So that's what I'm looking for, African print.
That's so popular.
Yeah.
Right.
You'll find it.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions?
Looking back at what you've been through, what you've overcame, and what you've achieved, what would you say is like the most challenging of thoughts you've had, but then also the most rewarding thing for you?
The most rewarding is always now as an adult, and for the last since I was 12, the reward has been that, and thanks to Pastor Frida Parker Smith, that reward came at 12 when she came here and preached. Don't remember her sermon title, don't remember what she talked about, but she did come from John 9. And in John 9, that's where I saw that, okay, this man was born blind to show the glory of God. I was born with spina bifida to show the glory of God. So that is the reward, always. This past weekend, I was working as a PA for house hunters. And you know I have my yellow car, I have my personalized license plate, and it says daylight. People were asking me, what does daylight mean? And I got to tell my story. And so whenever I get to tell my story, that's the most rewarding. To be honest, having spina bifida, hydrocephalus, club feet, all of that, the most rewarding. But the hardest thing is just life, and just dealing with everyday life and things coming against you when you feel like I was telling Pastor the other day, I felt like for once, it seems like every time I feel like I can breathe, something comes, something up comes to like, okay, you can't breathe all the way. You got to hold your breath sometime. You got to hold your, and I have felt like that many times over my life, more so the last 4 years. Going through this transition, not understanding what he's doing, wanting to do what I want to do, wanting to be where I want to be, and not understanding why I can't, and what he's doing, and not understanding not under that and how can I say it? Sometimes questioning your faith, questioning him, and you feel like, can I do that? Should I do that? Is it okay to do that? But always knowing that there's nowhere else to turn, even though you don't understand why he's allowing what he's allowing. But you know there's nowhere else to turn. That's the hardest. That's the hardest. To answer your question, please, that's the hardest thing.
You know, I think just like, you know, others and ourselves that have a testimony, you know, all of the tests that we go through, you know, we know that those trials and tribulations turn into testimonies, and the word tells us that we are overcomers by our testimony. But I think also what we have learned as people of that is that we have to learn to rest in God.
Yeah.
We believe in God, but do we believe God?
Yeah.
And even those who are saved and unsaved, you know, we struggle, you know, in life, you know, and sometimes your faith might be a 2, sometimes it might be a 10. I've been there myself, you know, but the fact is that using this in the proper context, God knows your heart. You know, so I think that to be settled, you know, to be settled in God and say, all right, God, look, I don't understand, I don't know why, I don't know when, saying, you know, in my devotional today, he said, I'm your best friend.
Yeah.
You know, walk with me. He says, I move mountains and I move universes to bless you. And then later it says, when you walk hand in hand with me, you're blessed and I'm blessed. You know? So it's about, I think it's about getting us to get to the point of resting in God instead of resting on our goal and resting on our objective, you know?
Yeah.
Resting in God, knowing that you can do all things through Christ that strengthens you.
Yeah, one of the I had to sit back and ask myself, where did life in the daylight come from? I've been saying that for almost 10 years now. And when you read John 9, it talks about living life, doing work in the daylight, because at night you can't do any work. And so that's where that comes from. John 9, I believe, is 4. But also, the word daylight has always been something that has been dear to me, because a derivative of my name means shining light, daylight. So that's where the daylight came from. But the life in the daylight came from John 9 and 4, because in life, you're working in the daylight, no matter if it's cloudy. No matter. I went to a spina bifida walk that they had in Virginia Beach, and there was a lot of families there, but none of the families really mingled. I do think there were some families that were from up this way, but never really met anyone. But I did meet Boris Kojo. His daughter is 18, and when she was born 18 years ago, I was 18. And when they shared her diagnosis of her having spina bifida, or being born with spina bifida, that's the first time I ever felt like I'm not alone. Like there's somebody, that there's other people that live with the same condition that you live with, but you don't know anybody. You can't put a face to it. Right. You only have your face. But that was the first time I could put a face to it. And knowing that I was introduced to Howard because of my spina bifida, and now knowing and seeing that she's at Howard, I was so happy. It was so happy to see that. And I actually got to meet him and tell him that I thank him for him and his wife sharing her story, because I felt like I wasn't alone in that aspect of my life.
Have you ever tried to Google?
I mean, I'm a part of different groups on Facebook and hear other people's stories, and they share their stories. And one thing that we deal with, and I guess is a part of having the birth defect, even though some people don't like that word. I don't know what other word to use. We struggle with depression. And I never realized and dealt with it as much as I have in recent times. But a lot of people, they show their depression with their stories they tell and they share. And it humbles me to be like, Rashon, you're complaining and you're doing this about just life, because like I said, my spina bifida is the easiest thing in my life. But here are these other people that are still having surgeries throughout their life, other people that are still having mobility issues, yes. Some people that are still having medical issues. And you really never had those issues because your father was in the military, so you had your medical issues and care taken care of. But there's other stuff that people have to go through.
Because spina bifida varies.
Yes, it's called the snowflake defect or disease, because no one person has or experiences spina bifida like the other. Like a snowflake, no one snowflake is the same as the other. So that's why it's called that.
I've
But-
seen and taken care of,
Mhm.
as well as by visiting patients. You do excellent.
Thank you.
You do very well. And it does vary from person to person, from little to so much.
Yeah. And I credit the love and the care, and I guess in some respects wisdom, even though they didn't know because they were first time parents. They never heard spina bifida. I credit their knowledge and their wisdom and their love for me, my mother and my father, for making the decisions they did when I was younger. I interviewed my father 2 years ago for Father's Day, and he told me of a story that when we were in the hospital, there was another child in there that had hydrocephalus, and his head, because if you don't take care of it, a person's head can swell. Like
All the water.
yes, I've
Yeah.
seen people's head like 3-4 times there's the size of, and those parents didn't want to have the surgery. And Dad said, seeing the way the condition of that child, he said no. Yes, there's some for that. And I think they thank them for that, and thank Mom for all that she has done up and down Route 9 over the years, going to West Point, because that was the closest Army medical center to us up here in upstate New York. But yeah, but getting sick in 1995, that was something that changed my life. Being driven down Georgia Avenue, that's Howard University. I'm going there. I was in second grade, going into the second grade. Only school I applied to. Only school I applied to. Wasn't applying to anywhere else. A different world. a different, no, the show A Different World. Watching the show A Different World and seeing that experience, like, oh, I want that. I want to go to Hillman. And then finding out that Debbie Allen, who was the producer of season 2 to 6, finding out that she was the producer, knowing that she went to Howard, her and her sister, Felicia Rashad, who I ended up meeting and interviewing while I was at Howard. It was like, okay, now this is where she went. Oh, this is where she got her experience, how she modeled a different world. I want to go there.
How was your experience?
It was good. Sometimes I wish I had sat in the moment more often than I did, because after the time goes so fast. Those 4.5 years went by so fast. But homecoming was great. Sometimes they would show movies before they were in the theater. So they would show it in our auditorium. They showed Glory Road. And that was one of the best movie experiences I have ever, besides seeing Black Panther. That was one of the best movie experiences I have ever seen. Just everybody in camaraderie and rooting on the team, and just us all hooraying and cheering on the team when we were supposed to, and getting mad when we were supposed to. And just being in DC at a historical time, twice while I was in DC. We had the first African American, or first president of African descent. And just being in the area, just feeling that in the air, going down to the reflecting pool and signing the board that they had up to congratulate him. And also at Howard, when he won the first time, we had something in the student center, and everybody was cheering, and I have some footage of that, and pictures of that, people crying. It was raining that night in DC too. and people, I didn't, I wish I did, people walked down from Howard to the White House. Yeah, and it wasn't that cold. It was November, but it wasn't that cold, but it was raining. I just went back to my room, just like, okay, I see y'all go down to the White House for me and have fun for me. But I mean, there's so many things. Meeting the different people, the guy that used to do the All-State commercials that was in Love and Basketball. I can't think of his name. Real tall. I didn't realize he was that big. Seeing Omarosa, seeing AJ from 106 in Park. It's just so many things. So many things. I wouldn't trade that for the world. One of the best decisions I ever made in my life. Anybody else have a question?
When you were down there in Howard, all those beautiful black men.
What about it?
How was your experience? How was your dating situation?
I hung out with, come to find out he had a girlfriend the whole time. That was really not my concern, and I talked about it last Tuesday. My man Kirk Franklin has a new song called "Try Love," and so he put it out there to do the Try Love challenge and to talk about who was the person that made you try love again. And I talked about my experience of growing up in my family dynamic household that I did, and then having, on top of that, having spina bifida, and not being, I didn't want to, like, there's many times that people have liked me, people that still like me. I've either never liked them, or they never liked me. There's been one time where we found out that a person and I liked each other at the same time. And the first person that I ever felt really comfortable with sharing myself fully, and then wasn't ashamed, and was comfortable with having spina bifida, even before we got together. But yeah, that was something that, like, I always, Mom, you need to wait for somebody special. You're not for everybody. You need somebody special in your life to understand, for them to understand what all that comes with you and having spina bifida. So yeah, I wasn't entertaining any and everybody. Some people I'd entertain. I actually got, one time I was hanging out with a group of friends on a production, and I'm telling a lot of the book. I was on we were working on a production, some friends asked me to help out, and I had an accident. And there was one guy that we call ourselves liking each other, or being attracted to each other. And something happened where he got his feelings hurt, and like a couple of months after that, he went on Facebook, and I had an accident. It was on a couch, a blue couch. He went on Facebook, found a picture of a blue couch, posted it, and said, "This is not a toilet, this is a couch." And he didn't tag me because I had blocked him, but tagged everybody that we were mutual friends with. And so I talked about that in the Try Love challenge. Like, that made me go back into my, okay, I'm not going to share this with anyone. So yeah, but I'm glad that I was able to share with someone. I say that because I've had that experience with that person, that made writing the book a little easier. But sometimes I tell myself that to make it feel better that it didn't last, to give me peace of, okay, this is why that happened, because I always thought that when I felt somebody that was comfortable with me, that I was comfortable with, and we were comfortable, and I was able to share my spina bifida with, that would be the one.
He was not a very nice person.
No, not him. The one that I was able to, that I felt comfortable with. And still, I thank him for his care during that time. Because I say that I wouldn't be able to share some of the stuff, but some of the stuff that I feel like I did share, but yeah, I guess it made it easier. I wouldn't know, because if I didn't have that experience, would the book still have come? I would never know. I'll never know. But that was one experience, one relationship that I was able to say that I was able to have somebody in my life other than my family. See all of Rashon, and more so, maybe more of Rashon. Probably, and probably again, not just so because of the spina bifida, because of that, it didn't work out.
Nobody likes being hurt,
Yeah.
so,
It's posted on Facebook or whatever.
Hmm.
but,
It was very nice.
it's all a part of life.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm just, a couple months ago, I had said it in my Testimony Tuesday video, that there were some things that I'm just coming to peace with. And that was the thing that I was just coming to peace with. And if Perfect did never put that challenge out, I would have probably never shared it this soon, because I was still like, even that day that I was filming, I was actually, that night before, I was in my bed sleep. I was asleep and still rehearsing in my head what I wanted to say on the video. Still didn't say everything in that video that I wanted to, or that I had rehearsed, but I guess I said enough. I said what needed to be said. And I did it twice, because I felt like the first one was 6 minutes. I felt like it was too long. And then I did it the second time. It was 4 minutes. I still felt it was too long, but I said, you know what? I'm not doing this again. I'm going to post it. So I posted it, and that was my sigh of relief that I thought I had. And then we got into a mishap on Thursday. We won't talk about that, though. But, yeah. So, do we have any questions for our viewing audience, or from our viewing audience? No? Any questions, Facebook? Any questions, YouTube? Any more questions for people in the house?
I got one more. So with the upcoming generation, what is like some inspirational or encouraging words for them that may have or may be facing similar issues and similar struggles?
You're not by yourself, even though you may feel like it sometimes, because you may not know anybody in your community. And if you are old enough, go to your parents and ask them, can we do some, because we have technology. We didn't have technology 37 years ago. We didn't have technology 28 years ago. The technology we have today for us to find other people that are like us, that families that are like us. If you are of age, go to your parents and ask, let's do a Google search, mom, dad, grandma, whoever your guardian is, and ask them, can we find somebody and find families that we can communicate with and grow relationship with, so we don't feel like we're by ourselves, so I don't feel like I'm by myself. Because that's a lonely, lonely, lonely world, a lonely life. Um, especially when you're a child in a single parent home with a birth defect and a person of faith. All that combined, feel really lonely. Even as an adult sometimes. With all that, I still feel lonely. Because of all that is Rashon. Because everybody is not like Rashon. So find somebody, and if you have to do it on your own, kids know how to use a computer. Kids know how to use a phone. Um, go do your own research, and if you find it before your parents, look, let's do this. Let's because they have so many. I don't know any chapter up here, but they have chapters all over of spina bifida. They have spina bifida walks all over. Um, I do want to have one. Um, I have thought about it, and then life happens.
I just said, let's go about studying the chapter.
Doing, um, but yes. So to answer your question, Selena, yes, find somebody that is find chapters, find organizations that deal with whatever you're dealing with. Um, talk to somebody you trust at church if you go to church. I know there's counselors throughout all schools now. Go to your counselor at school. Tell them how you feel. See if they can even help you with your search and finding somebody that's living like you or dealing with things like you. So you don't feel like you're by yourself because you shouldn't suffer in silence. You shouldn't suffer in silence. You shouldn't keep stuff to yourself. Um, I know a lot of, I don't know how prevalent it is now, but a lot of my peers that I have to talk to, what goes on in this house stays in this house. No, that shouldn't be. That shouldn't be because you suffer. You suffer in your own home. Anybody that's dealing with anything at home that they feel like they can't talk about. Even though if you're suffering at home, you shouldn't allow yourself to do so. You should talk to somebody.
I think that, because of some of the stigmas that, you know, do as I say, not as I do, you know, what goes on in this house stays in this house, you better not tell nobody but God, you know. All of that, you know, that's been pushed in our minds and pushed in upon us as children. But I think one of the important things is that I don't care who you are, what you're going through, that, you know, pray and seek out a therapist.
Yeah.
It's okay. See, we've always been closed in and made not to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, but and even if you find someone that is a believer, you know, like you say, you could find them all over because you just don't want to go just to say that I'm going. You know, but I think that it's important, very important that you know, a therapist, you know, would help you through, you know, the thought processes in terms of, you know, not so much, oh, you shouldn't feel this way, or you shouldn't feel that way, but, you know, putting it in your lap and say, well, how do you feel like we need to handle this, you know, just to see where you are, you know, but I think it's very important that people do, you know, realize it's okay to have a therapist.
Yeah. It is.
What can we do? What can, if we are aware of the situation, what can we do to help or to make that person feel included, wanted, loved?
The person that's struggling with something.
Yes.
If they have been um, strong enough and they've come to you because of their issue, because of their problem, check on them every so often and ask them would they like help or would they need help, and how would they need it. And if they don't know, figure it out together with them. See if you can figure it out with them.
And do you feel free to share, or the people in your life that you feel free to share with, or feel that they care enough to listen to?
Yeah. If I didn't, that's the person I talked about in the Try Love Challenge video. Alicia, I met her 5 years ago, and I just told her, I gave her my business card, said, watch my documentary. She helped fund the making of, or the publication of the book. She helped me through that season of, I guess, having my heart broke. She's been there through like the last 4 years have been the toughest for me, and she has been there in every aspect and every way that she could possibly be. And like I said in the video, I'm forever grateful to her, and I thank her for the download and accepting the download from God that she accepted to put in herself, to be there and be who she was and be who she is in my life. I love you. Oh, yay. Blessings for school, Estelle. Thanks for coming. Love you. Anybody else have anything to say? Any comments? May not have questions, but any comments? For those who read I have a question. For those who read the book, what was surprising to you? What was the most surprising part? Or most, like, wow, I didn't know that. Or wow, she was dealing with that. And because a lot of my peers have said to me, Dad, you would never know you were going through anything that you are going through. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Because I often heard when I heard that a lot of comedians, they deal with depression, and you would never know it because they hide behind a laugh, they hide behind a joke. And the first time that I realized about myself is when I was doing my Testimony Tuesday videos, starting back in 2020. Around that time, I've been doing it since 2018, but 2019 I started doing the videos. But I don't feel like doing this. I don't want to do this. I don't want them to see how I look. I don't want them to see how I feel. But press record, and I perk up and press record again to turn it off and go right back to how I felt. And then it got to a point where I just don't care. This is how I'm feeling. Y'all gonna get this today. Y'all gonna get this today. I don't care. And you can say that, well, she's always complaining, or she's always crying, or she's always, no, life was happening for all of us in 2020, for all of us. And on top of COVID and coronavirus happening with us and happening to us, not having jobs, being by ourselves, other things in life were still happening. and I was working. I have not stopped working. I can. The first time I went on vacation since COVID was in April. The last time I had been on vacation was August of 2019. I worked straight, and I was working 2 jobs at one time. So it was a lot. And I was around people, but still in my mind and in my spirit, I felt alone. Even though I had Alicia, I still felt alone in some things. Yes, I was able to talk to her, but I still felt like, okay, she understands, I'm talking to her, and she's sympathetic, empathetic, but people really know how I really, really feel. Loving. I will say, and this has been on my mind for a long time, since I've been back here for this last a little over a year. In the Bible, Scripture says, love covers a multitude of sins. The love that I have received from Riverview and Point of Praise has helped me tremendously through this transition. Sometimes I don't want to sometimes I don't not just want to not be in Kingston. I don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to be here. I haven't said that out loud publicly. But it's real. It's real. I have, in my creative mind again, thought about the design for my program.
About what?
My program. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do nothing now.
I think, with me, knowing you since, birth, what have you, everything that we go through has a purpose for it, you don't know what dangers you're really being shielded from, what situations that you may, have just cleared the bar,
But not on the street. Not on the street. Not on the street.
But I see it like this. I see future accomplishments because we believe that God is a God of prosperity.
Yeah.
First spiritually, and then He will provide. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. So that means that your greatest accomplishment is still in front of you.
Yeah.
So there always will be something productive for you to do. So whatever you have in your head, write it down.
Ooh.
That's right. Check out. Why don't you want to be here?
It goes back to just my childhood. The only thing for us to do growing up as a child was come down to 42 Catherine Street. Other than going up there to John F. Kennedy, going out to Miller, and going up to the high school. The only other thing was coming down here to do something. I mean, we did travel. My mother and I traveled. Our family traveled. And I think that was a good and a bad thing as well, because we saw what there was to do in other places. We saw what other kids were doing on a consistent basis. And yes, we did as much as we could here at Riverview, but I just always was seeking and looking for more to do. I think I still am, and it's gotten worse because y'all know, y'all know I don't mind getting in daylight and getting on 87 to 95, and I'll be gone for 2 weeks.
No, but you're doing a good job.
Thank
so
you.
I'm pretty sure that if you keep doing what you're doing,
Thank you.
that you're going to have a lot of followers. And, you know, the information that you actually have helps other kids. So I'm pretty sure that you will exactly get what you deserve and that what you're looking for, because your heart is right in it.
And I think there's more out there. There's more out there for young people. There's more out there for young adults. And there's even more out there for the seasoned saints, as they would say. Them Jews, the Jews, as they call them at Ebenezer. There's more, and I know other people that live in places I love. Like I have a friend that lives in Chesapeake, Virginia. She hates it. She wants to leave. 'Cause that's where she's from. I'm like, what? And when I was on my road trip a couple weeks ago, I was at a grocery store and the girl was telling me, I can't. And I was just like, you have the most gorgeous sunsets and sunrises here. What do you mean you want to leave here?
That's young people. They always feel something's better. They need more. You know, but for you, I would say Lord, you got me here for such a time as this. And you're gonna look back and really appreciate the many things that did occur.
Yeah.
I think if you had your own apartment, it would be totally different.
And that's been a thing of contention as far within myself, not having had it.
Yes, experience the independence.
Yeah, and yeah, because all the creative stuff I have in my mind and all the things I want to do.
Lace mills for artists.
Yes.
What?
Lace mills.
For artists. You know what it's doing.
Mm-mm.
It's between Vauxhall Avenue and Fernell Street.
Yeah, right crossing over.
It used to be literally a lace mill. It used to be a factory.
Oh,
It's a huge, big brick building.
you talking about the apartment building?
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably delivered there.
Yes.
It's for artists.
To live there?
Yes.
Right by ARC on that road.
Yes.
And the rent is affordable.
Have the kitchen, everything in there, beautiful.
It is beautiful.
And I think that with that too, because when I first came back the second time, I didn't look for anything in the area because I didn't want to be. Yeah, I didn't want to feel like I was not settling and obligated to somebody for at least a year, and here I am. Huh?
Yeah.
Just go and do it.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, for artists, you have your background supports everything that they are trying to provide for people who, don't have, just need that type of break, but you have to be an artist of some sort. And your total background, your network, your book, the whole 9 yards, that makes you eligible as a tenant.
Maybe that's the next step.
Yeah.
Sometimes God waits for us to take that next step.
Yes.
And
You get comfortable in the security of where you are right now. You say that, but there's a reason you haven't moved.
because of the financial piece.
Yeah, but it's more than that.
It's all right.
Because what?
The financial piece, that's the only thing. That's really the only thing.
Also check the rough color.
Yeah, I've been up, but their list is not open. The list is not open.
That's what I think police knows should apply for it. You know, that's that way, speak up for you, what have you.
You feel better that you're pursuing something yourself. But Lord, for such a time as this, we have.
Sharing so much.
Thank you.
'Cause
You're
when
welcome.
I haven't read the whole book, but when I started reading, I'm like, like you said, I never would have known. If you hadn't shared it, I never would have known. And then for you to share it with, I don't know how many followers you have, but I'm sure that there are a lot of people who are feeling the same way. I never would have known. But that makes me admire you even more.
Thank you. Thank
Your
you.
accomplishments in spite of.
Yeah.
Inspired us.
Yes. Thank you, Lord. You are admired.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you all, and I thank you all for joining me and for taking your time out to spend time with me for an hour.
This is not the first one, is it?
The first, like, sit down like this. Yeah. I am having a meet and greet at Rough Draft next Tuesday from 5. Rough Draft, Crown Street, John Street, somewhere on that corner. Yeah.
Post it, post
Yes,
it
I
on
know
your,
where
on
it
your,
is.
on the Facebook.
Yeah, they do local author showcases. Thank you, everybody that joined us virtually. Love you. And if you don't have the book, I will put the link in the comments to get the book.
You can just leave it on the table.